Several pieces of iron are placed into the electric furnace by the workers. The electric furnace can quickly melt these iron pieces into molten iron in just a few minutes. Once the iron has melted into molten iron, the workers use a thermometer to measure the temperature inside the electric furnace. At this point, the thermometer reads 1521 degrees, which is the temperature at which iron melts into molten iron. Subsequently, the workers pour a scoop of borax into the electric furnace. The purpose of the borax is to remove impurities from the metal surface during smelting. This ensures the purity of the molten iron during casting. Next, the borax, which has absorbed the impurities, is removed. The impurities are encapsulated within the borax. Then the workers hoist the dry pot next to the electric furnace and operate the electric furnace's tilting platform to pour the molten iron into the crucible. After pouring the molten iron, borax is added again to absorb the impurities on the surface of the molten iron. It is stirred, and the borax encapsulating the impurities is removed. At this point, the molten iron is ready to be poured into the mold. The workers rotate the turntable, and the molten iron is poured into the mold. At this point, the splashing molten iron still has a temperature of 1500 degrees, making it extremely dangerous. Therefore, it is crucial to pour as close to the pouring opening as possible to avoid injuring the workers. After pouring, wait for the mold to cool down. Then, workers lift the mold and use a hammer to break the clay mold. It turns out this is a factory that produces small iron pots. After removing the clay, workers use a plasma cutter to cut the connecting bridge of the hanging pot. Plasma cutting utilizes the heat of a high-temperature plasma arc to vaporize the material at the cut due to the high temperature, achieving the cutting effect. The advantages are fast speed, and the surface of the cut workpiece does not deform. The edges of the cut pot are very irregular, so they need to be polished. Finally, the pot is sent to the polishing workshop for smoothing, where workers use a grinder to smooth the edges of the pot. This ensures that the pot won't scratch hands during use, and also gives it a more simple and clean appearance. Speaking of which, looking at an iron pot made like this, do you think it would be durable? And what do you think this small iron pot is suitable for cooking?